Hey, hi, hello. Welcome back to I Love Vampire Novels and our read-along of Bury Eye Bones in the Midnight Soil by V. Schwab. We're going to jump into some vloggy stuff, and I will be back to talk about the wrap-up stuff that I want to discuss. So let's get into it. Okay, so we lost Mateo's human lover, and there was grief, and Sabine went away, and she comes back. And there's a new one in his place who is a vampire, a young, newly turned vampire, who is like, oh, it's so boring to just survive. I will starve. You are more fun. Let's go have some fun. Let's go eat. And so, like, this whole cycle is forming. And I just wanted to note that. There's a cycle forming. So, some setup has been made by Mateo after he leaves because the new vampire is set upon by the humans. He kills too recklessly a magistrate and his wife, and like whatever, they kill him. Mateo is like, it's time for me to go. He's going to the Americas. He invites Sabine to go with him. She does not. She travels around employing both of her mentor's rules as she goes, and then she slowly discovers she's lonely. And he goes, you haven't found the right person yet. And so I think that is the setup for Alice, because right after she's like, I'm starting to feel lonely, wishing for something that the old Sabine could have been, what her housemaid could have been. And maybe if she had let somebody go and they looked at her with wanting, that she might have felt the want to change them. And I think Alice is that person. I'm just waiting for Sabine to come back, Lottie to come back, Maria to come back. Question is, though, are those people that she let go, any of them that she let go, did they become vampires? Did she intend for Alice to become a vampire, or was that like her longing in her heart that happened with? That's my question, and I'm sure we'll get there soon. So yeah, okay. Oh shit. Okay, so I was wrong. Totally okay with this. Lottie is not Sabine. Lottie is Sabine's. And apparently Sabine's the one that changed Lottie after their night, because I'm gonna guess some of that lover issues of Sabine wanting one, finally finding one, and I guess that's Charlotte, Lottie. And then, okay, I like this. If you can't tell, I like this. I love the mess that we are unraveling right now. Okay, I'm going to go back to it, so I'm probably going to get to this section pretty soon. I just started Charlotte, and that is the biggest chunk, but after this chunk, it's like, so probably get through it tonight. I'm hoping I get through it tonight because I'm excited to find out Charlotte's story. Okay, so I just finished this section, and I really like Charlotte. She's a very soft character, a very emotional character compared to Sabine, who like doesn't really feel a whole lot, and I can see why Charlotte, Lottie, likely ran away from Sabine and caused a rift. I wonder what that means for the last part of this book. The last quarter of this book is probably going to be intense. We're going to have a confrontation. Yes. Okay, so the first thing I want to discuss is the separation of Mateo and Sabine. So we already see that Mateo's human lover ages and dies, and then he tries to fill that hole with another person, Joe, who's way too reckless. Already having Maria, Sabine be reckless, add on Joe to this, and it just spells disaster, which is exactly what happened. And Mateo even says, you know, I would have killed him if the humans hadn't, which, I mean, you don't want people, that's a very big theme in vampire novels, so you don't want people to know you exist, and you have to behave accordingly. So I thought that was a good little hint to that lore, a little connection to other vampire novels and whatnot. So I also like the foreshadowing kind of Mateo going to the Americas, because we know Sabine eventually is going to go to the Americas as well, even though she doesn't see Mateo ever again. It also hits on the crossing open water myth, which is not supposed to be possible for vampires unless there's certain circumstances, I believe, but most of the time, running water, etc., you can't cross. I think that applies to the oceans. I know rivers and streams and whatnot, that is definitely true for. And let's piggyback on that with the lore and Alice's point of view, which again is doing great. They're making a lot of connections with her being a new vampire, with her being more modern, with all of that literature about vampires being present, her to checklist against, and I thought that was cool. I really liked the grave part, because that is not common. That is not a common thing, but having it like almost suck the life out of her needing to crawl and like really want to live to get out of it was cool. And then her like fuck off kind of reaction to it. Another part of her growth as an individual, kind of standing up for herself, even though it's to a metaphysical response from being a vampire. I also liked the following the music, something only she could hear, and bringing her to a place where other creatures congregate. And the hint at other creatures, angels and demons and psychics and this kind of thing. And I wonder how many creatures are actually present in this world, and if we'll ever meet any of them besides the psychic. That would be really cool in the last quarter. I kind of hope for it, but I'm not expecting it. I also like who Lottie actually is. So she's not Sabine. I was wrong, but there's definitely a heavy connection to Sabine. A lot of mimicked and mirrored actions and reactions, and we might have been led to believe that they were the same person, but as we learn before we go into Charlotte's point of view, that Sabine is the one that changed Alice. So there is something there that I am not quite sure what happens. I'm pretty sure it's the blood exchange that needs to happen, or maybe it's just that they don't, no, it's the blood exchange that happens because Lottie drinks from other people and it doesn't change them. So it has to be something like that. Or maybe just drinking them till death or close to death. I don't know. But this also depicts Sabine as a jealous lover, which I think all of us could have predicted that she would have been, right? Like the setting up of her wanting someone of being lonely and then finally finding that person who doesn't fight and doesn't run and isn't scared to be that person, and that being Charlotte. Of course she's going to be super attached to it, and she's very possessive, I feel like, as well. So foreshadowing what's going to be coming in the present in this last quarter of the book, because I feel like it's all going to come to a head, and I'm so excited to see what happens with that. I also really enjoy Sabine and Charlotte's story. So Sabine coming to learn that she enjoys women based off of her reaction, her relationship with her nursemaid, or I forget whether her lady-in-waiting or whatever. And yet Charlotte kind of seemed to know from a young age, but they both have societal confines to fight against, and they do it in very different ways. And I do enjoy kind of the contrasting but mirroring of the two of them, as Sabine is very confident in herself. She always has been. Charlotte doesn't seem to lack in confidence. She just is kind of flippant in the way that she's like, you want me to be this thing, and I'll pretend to be that thing for a little while, but I'm just going to go back to reality after this. But she doesn't. And I think that's a very important lesson to highlight, is that faking that you are something can have real consequences. Like getting proposed to even though you're not supposed to be out for a marriage, and then that person dying because your actual lover turned you into a vampire. You know what I'm getting at, right? I hope so. I'm just being very sarcastic about it. That also leans to this idea of teaching girls to kind of put on a facade that they will be a good wife, even though that's not who they really are. Because once you are married, you can't just drop that facade. You still have to be that person that you essentially promised the other person that you were, and live those lies. And I feel like that's both an important role and very telling one, like about relationships in general, how we put our best foot forward until we get to like start to really know each other. Living with each other is usually the key to learning who somebody actually is. But just like development of dating and how weird that was back then, because you didn't really get to date, you didn't really get to show who you were, because women needed to be married off in order to have any sort of future freedom. Not really freedom, but you know what I mean. And men needed a companion, and you don't know if you're going to get a good one from either one if you guys barely get to spend any time with each other, barely like get to be real with each other without people watching, etc. Like, I get why we have chaperones back then, but at the same time, like, it didn't save everybody, as one of the comments from Sabine came on one of the guys who promised everybody everything and then string of broken hearts and ruined reputations after. But anyways, it's just a very interesting concept to be not quite arranged marriages, but it seems pretty damn close. Like, it does. The courting back then seems pretty damn close to what an arranged marriage would be. And it also doesn't allow for affection to grow, which means very cold relationships. I feel like you're hoping to build that love based on compatibility, and you're hoping that that's going to be what happens. But I feel like it ended in a lot of not so happy marriages. Maybe not unhappy, but not so as happy as they could have been. You know what I mean? I also really like Charlotte's reflection in Alice, because Alice knew from a young age that she was a lesbian, that she liked girls, and so did Charlotte. And I don't know what Alice's story is with that, other than not standing up for herself and allowing people to be derogatory towards her. Did she have a first love? Like, who was, like, how did she like, I don't know any of her backstory, and I find that and specifically with being in a relationship with a girl, and we don't have any of that, and I find that very interesting. I know they're probably rare and few and far between because she's from a small town, but I like the connection because Charlotte is also from a small town, granted many years ago, but she's also from a small town. She also kind of got to run wild. She seems like a good pairing or mashup of Alice and her sister Caddy. It's weird to say, but I feel like that is. But I also feel like Charlotte seemed like such a good person, and Alice seems like a really good person, and they kind of vibe together in that way. I'm kind of hoping for a little bit of romance between them to continue, but we will see. And finally, I really love a lot of the blooming imagery and the midnight soil imagery that links to, obviously, the name of the book, the poem being repeated a few times. But I like the fact that some people can bloom wherever, in whatever soil, and some people are meant to bloom in certain places. And it just kind of talks about, like, references the dichotomy of humanity and the different types of people there are. And so I really liked that. I especially loved Charlotte's mom and her giving Charlotte that moment before she goes off, and she's like, you'll just come back with some stories, don't worry, you're the kind of flower, the kind of bloom that can grow and thrive anywhere. And I do believe that's true. I just really liked the imagery that we got from that. So anyways, those are really all of the thoughts that I have at this moment. I am hoping for the big bang finish. I'm hoping for a lot of things to be wrapped up with Sabine and Charlotte and Alice and their dichotomy there. I enjoy Sabine/Maria, but I do hope that she kind of gets her ending, if that makes sense, because I don't think she made a very good vampire, in the regards that she's no longer a good person. She's been killing willy-nilly. I get it's about survival. She's very selfish in those kinds of ways, and so I would like Lottie and Alice to have a happily ever after. I kind of want Sabine to as well, but if I had to choose between them, by Sabine, let Lottie and Alice have their happy. So that's what I want. That's what I'm hoping for. We'll see what happens. I'm probably going to be happy with anything, if I'm being honest with you. So, alright. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and check out the blog that I wrote about this. It gets a little bit different, take when I type it versus speaking it. Anyways, I will see you guys next time as we finish Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V. Schwab. Okay, thanks for being here. Bye!